So I share my slides. I don't know if it is appear in your desktop. Can you see my slides? Okay, you see my slides. So let me talk about the project component, the project life cycle, final year project presentation, why we need to present our work. I will talk about also structure of your thesis, the rules, some advices, how you make your project more, the quality is high in your project, and resources and citation. So basically, the project you are working on in final year project is just example about
دكتور المايك مبند.
I don't know. الو الان الصوت okay? Is the my sound reaching you?
ايه دكتور ده واضح.
So you didn't hear anything from what I said?
No.
Okay. So let me take you back. Now have a look. Now this project, final year project, whatever your specialty is, electrical, mechanical, chemical, civil, just merit of a problem given to you, you work on it and then you solve it. It's like practicing about the future work. When you graduate and work in any company or organization, what will happen is you are gonna given a problem and you will solve it. So your work in any organization will be problem solver. Engineer is a problem solver simply. So the project, final year project, is practicing what you are going to do in the future. Okay, if you understand the tools, how to solve a problem, how you go through different phases for a project, then this will be very helpful for you when you graduate and work somewhere else. Now, for the project, any project will, let me say, go through different phases. Usually they call them 4 phases actually plan. The phase 1 is when if we let me say any project could have supposed to have a customer and contractor. As example, in final year project, the customer is faculty of engineering Sohar University and the supervisor is representing this customer. He prepare, let me say, a problem statement. He say that we are a title and problem statement. I give it to his students and tell them that this is our problem. We want to solve it. This is phase 1. Okay. At the end of phase 1, what happened is he submit his what we call it request for a proposal, publishing title and abstract or summary for the project. Phase 2 started when the contractor, who's the contractor? You, I mean the students, will select this project and take the problem and the request for a proposal, and they start writing their proposal. They will say, okay, let's expand the information given in the request for a proposal. We write the objectives, we write some introduction and literature and schedule. We make some schedule, and then we submit our plan within this report, which is called proposal, and they agreed with the supervisor about the objectives. So phase number 2 completed. We go for phase number 3. Phase number 3, you start executing what you planned. What is your plan? What is the schedule? You start executing what is written there in your proposal, and you execute the project. You complete the project. When you finish at the end of the project, phase number 3, sorry, you are going to go to the phase number 4, which is finishing and close up. Finishing and close up contain the report, your thesis, a presentation if you have a presentation, some let me say deliverables such as prototypes if it's required from you, and at the end celebrate. Okay, that we're done, we finish the project and close it. So these 4 phases is standard for any project in the world. We may sometime reduce or shorten one part of the phases, phase 1 as example, or phase 3, 4 as example, but the general is this, starting from problem created, then we have a project. Problem, it means needs uncertainty, then we have project until we finish and close up. Now, if I would like to start with the structure of your thesis, then I go for the project, the presentation of your data, your information. Project supposed to have a title, as you can see here in this slide. You see the slide? Anybody can just tell me? You see the slide, right? Okay. Now, almost structure of the project will be reflected in the presentation at the end, which contain title, concept of the project, proposal, solution, what is the solution you propose to solve the problem, materials and method used. Sometimes you have experimental work, sometimes you have, let me say, simulation part, simulation work, sometimes both, sometimes contain also theoretical parts, and also key results and milestones, the important achievements come up from your project. And definitely it's good to represent your information using Gantt chart. I don't know if you heard about Gantt chart, but usually in the past, I remember in Sahara University 2000, maybe 5 or 6, being given a course in level 4, I was delivering this course. It's called project management. We train them on how they use Microsoft project to play on, let me say, Gantt chart and prepare the schedule and plan for your project, and how you distribute the time and the resources. So at the end, we have a schedule here. So these are the different part of your work, which will be reflected later on the presentation. Usually, my advice based on experience and what I read in different textbooks related to project, the structure supposed to be for any project contain 5 chapters. Chapter 1 usually is the introduction chapter. You introduce the reader, okay, introduce people to the topic. And within this chapter, it's supposed, by the way, it's supposed to be, let me say, most of it coming from the proposal itself, because it contains short introduction, short literature survey, problem statement, objectives. You write your objectives. What are the main points you want to execute here? And then methodology, research methodology, even if it is short, okay? And at the end, if it is thesis, we're talking about report or thesis, then you have to put the details of the description for the details of the thesis chapters and sections. So this is chapter 1. It will be short chapter usually. Now we go for chapter 2. Chapter 2 usually I prefer to call it theoretical and literature survey, theory and literature survey. Theory and literature survey, from the name, it's part of it to be the theoretical part of the topic. As example, you are talking about solar cell, solar energy. You need to talk about introduction about energy, renewable energy, then solar cell, and then you go for module, panel, array, matrix, power plant. You need to talk about the technologies. You need to talk about the modeling of the solar cell. You need to talk about different equations, formula, tables used to deal with solar cell. And if we go for systems, then we need to see to talk about different configuration related to solar cell, solar energy, and so on. So you need to list there in the introduction things related to the topic you are covering. And it's preferable to have principles and fundamentals of the topic. Now, chapter 3, by the way, this is the first part of the chapter 2. The second part of chapter 2 is supposed to be the literature survey. Literature survey, from my side of view, it's the soul of any research. You need to know what has been done related to your topic. You need to read about other people's contribution for the topic, okay? You need to criticize them. You need to see what are the different methods or technique or approaches they use to solve the problem. What are their inputs and their outputs? What are their observations, okay? let this be your experience. I mean, getting experience from others' work related to your topic. And it's preferable to write something at the end, like a conclusion or at the end of the chapter, why you are studying this and what you are going to use to solve the problem. This is chapter 2. It could be long, maybe sometimes the longest chapter here, because it's free. You can write whatever you want, introduction and literature. Chapter 3 supposed to be related to the research methodology and experimental setup in general. Sometimes if you don't have experimental setup, you have simulation. Okay, so you remove experimental, you write simulation as example. Let me say assumptions as example. Or simulation, just simulation. You need to put there expansion for the research methodology you mentioned in chapter 1. In chapter 1 it was short. Here you expand it, you go a little bit more about the methodology, how you are going to meet your objectives, how you make sure that at the end you solve the problem by what you applied, the methods you applied for each one of these objectives. And also, if it is experimental setup, describe your experimental setup. Talk about the tools you used, their, let me say, specifications, their quality, their units, the way they, how. So if anybody would like to repeat the same study, he can, because he understands how to use the equipment you already mentioned in your chapter 3. So it's good to give there. Sometimes it's preferable to give examples about each one of these equipment. Or if they are collected together at the end as a system, you give example how to use them to show the flow of information from the beginning to the end. So this is chapter 3. Chapter 4 usually related to your results and analysis, or sometimes they call it results and discussion. In this chapter, this is the main contribution of you. Your main contribution coming here in this chapter 4, because here you listed your results and then you discuss them. And my advice is to spend time there on your results. You know, people want to see what you did in your project. In chapter 1 and 2 and 3, almost either general information or description of the system, but what you come up with, what are the results, this is what people want to see. So put your effort there. I advise you to carefully treat your figures, your tables, your results, your observations, make some sort of comparison between results. Let me say, justify your results. If you see some, by the way, it doesn't mean that you need to know everything about your result. Sometimes your information is limited in describing what you see, but at least you mention based on the what you read in the literature, you mention some highlighted points related to the literature. This is for chapter 4. Chapter 5 is the shortest one, actually, because it may be sometime 1 page, 2 page, 3 pages. What we listed there is the conclusions, what we conclude from our study, and future work or any advices given for people who will come after you to complete the work. What your advices, if time given to you to repeat the work, what you will consider. This is what you need to write in your chapter 5. References coming at the end, and after references, if you have any, let me say, appendices, some information you would like to attach to your thesis. Just general information related to the thesis structure, to the project structure. I will mention them because in the next few slides, because I do believe the presentation linked directly to the structure of the project, and what you did inside the thesis is reflected directly inside the slides. So just tips, these tips, I advise you to consider it also, okay, in your thesis and in your presentation, both. Until now, are you copying what I'm saying? My sound reaching you? Is it okay? Ladies, gentlemen. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, Dr. Hussain. We can hear you.
Prof. Raj, good to hear from you. Good that you're back to the faculty.
Please, please.
So, thank you very much. So this is for the structure of your thesis. Now, next is the next few points and tips I will mention is related to the structure and also to the, let me say, the presentation. But let me start first why we need to present our work. At the end, from between the two semesters, you will have a presentation. And at the end of the academic year, you will have final presentation, or we call it sometimes viva or defense, and why we need this actually. For many reasons, sometimes pitch the project or summarize the project or report the project outcomes. Now, as example, sometimes you do presentation internally to your supervisor and your group to show the progress. Sometimes you give it to the exam committee, as you will see, we will do between the two semesters at the end of semester 2. Sometimes you want to summarize a few experiments you already gone through in the lab to your group or your supervisor or whoever coming visitors or something. You want to report some important outcome. For that, you present your project. Okay. So project life cycle, as I mentioned, we have 4 phases. It start from the initiation. Initiation, if you remember phase 1, when we talk about a project, created a project born when there is a problem, when there is need, started by the supervisor or the organization or any customer, and end at the request for a proposal, RPF, okay? RFP, sorry. So the next phase was the planning, or what we call when it started when you handle the request for a proposal and plan your work. You write your proposal, plan the work, and then work the plan. So you go from the phase number 2 to phase number 2. You execute your project according to the plan you already listed in your request, in your proposal. So execution, it means you go through like a block diagram. Okay, you put the steps, step 1, then it goes step 2, step 3. Sometimes you need to return back in a close cycle and so on. And close up, as any project, you need to close up by submitting your, let me say, project report or thesis. You present your work. If some other deliverables need to be given, then this will become in the close. Even celebrate, let me say, is part of the close up of the project. Well, as I told you, today I just discovered that today I have a presentation supposed to be sometime else. However, let me see what I put here in this slide. Actually, it seemed to be that I supervise different projects in the 27 years back working in academia. And based on my understanding that in the middle between the 2 semesters, you will have a presentation, you will present your work. By the way, when you go for a presentation, I advise you to, before you go for a presentation, start write lists what you already got from the simulation, if you have simulation, from the experimental, if both, if theoretical part, and then from what you did, let me say, try to pick some information, put them in slides. Okay, don't go for a slide directly from the internet, try to write some general information. This is not preferable. No, try to take information from what you already did. It will be great if you in semester 1 started conducting some experiment. That will be great to pick some of them and put them in your slides. It's like observation. Most of successful students, I mean, talking about high grade 4 and below, they present very well in the interim report, in the interim presentation between the 2 semesters. So my advice, you take it serious. When you back, inshallah, after semester 1, in the beginning of semester 2, you will have presentation. I expect that the program coordinator will submit, let me say, schedule for the students which day to present their work. So try to make sure that you are ready there to present, to give your best. I mean, let me say, look in your presentation. Because the examiners, the same examiners will meet you at the end of semester 2 to see what the progress, but sometimes they raise some questions for you. Take them and consider them carefully because they will help you a lot to improve your work. And by the way, it will help you a lot. I mean, this project will help you a lot in research because it will reflect it on your way of thinking, how to solve problems, how to handle problems, how to present, how to use softwares, how to use experiments. So skills will get improved with time. This is just like talking about why you present anything at all. Gaining knowledge is the first step to wisdom. Sharing it is the first step to humanity. And this is gonna improve your skills in the way how you represent your information. Until now, most of your contribution is by taking from your professor or supervisor through lectures, lab, tutorial, and so on, a project, okay? But you need to try yourself how you transfer this information you received into others. Usually from practicing with students in different courses, I advise them to make groups and go to the class. One of the group, it could be small group, large group, try to explain example as example in front of his colleagues. This will encourage him, encourage other colleagues, make brainstorming, improve his skills in presenting his information. This is important, and you will see yourself at the end of level 4 when you complete the 2-semester project that there is a lot of information you got related to skills. It get improved. Why we present still the same question, anything at all? Share knowledge with others. This is one. And it gives you self-satisfaction because you feel you have contribution. Also, you need to get feedback from others. You need to highlight the importance achievements coming from your work. By the way, as I mentioned, here you are not only talking about presentation, you are talking about presentation and the project, the thesis itself. In thesis, you need to present your information there. In presentation, final presentation or interim presentation, you will present your information also there. So make sure that you show these let me say achievements. Market your work and increase exchange of success. Now here I try to compare between science and art. Okay, now definitely engineer is more related to science. Okay, and if I read the definitions for science, I will pick as example, let me see, number 3, knowledge or system, to the left hand side, of knowledge covering general truth or the operation of general law, especially as obtained and tested through scientific method. Oh, it's talking about what we are doing daily. Okay, but here in the project and in a presentation, in your structure for your thesis and in your presentation, you need to know that it's not enough to have science. You need to be artist at the same time, artisting your science, your scientific achievement. You need to have this, let me touches. So if I go to see the right hand side art is let me say number 1 or 3, even number 1 skill acquired by experience, study, or observation, or number 3, an occupation requiring knowledge of a skill. So it's not enough to have achievements. The beauty is how you represent their achievement, either on the papers in your thesis project or in presentation in your slides. So it's not only science plus art. This is your way of how you represent your information. Artistical expression and scientific, they come together. Okay. Now, basic components of your thesis or presentation, both introduction, the body, and conclusion. You can see the introduction and conclusion are the lowest percentage, but your body inside. My advice to give attention to the literature survey, to the research methodology, your experimental setup, and your results and their analysis. Here, try to put the effort. Let your supervisor, let the examiner see you there. Okay, yeah, it's easy to write let me say introduction, getting information from textbook, from resources, from references, websites, blah, blah, blah. It's easy. But the important issue is how we use them in our real problem. Now we work on them to solve them. Okay. So you tell introduction, you tell them what you will tell them here. Try to answer this question. You embody. You focus more on your observation, your own observation, your own results, how you look for them. By the way, if you want to improve your skills in describing or observing any figure, look to other people in their literature. When you do the literature, how they when they got the similar curve, how they talk about it, from which side of view they look. So try to use their experience. This will be helpful a lot. Okay. Now, still with the basic components, we have the title. By the way, at the beginning of the project, lately in September, you picked, or early in October, you picked your title. I mean, you can improve this title at the end of the project. Now, these titles as initial titles, but later on, when you complete the work, you write your thesis, you need to take a while looking to your title. Is it reflecting what we did? Is the title enough to reflect what we already did? This is important. It's not a problem to improve your title, to add word or remove word, but it's still the same problem. So let the title reflected on your thesis or your presentation. Now, inside the content, there is a long way to reach the end of the story. Okay, you started with the problem, with the summary, and then you went through in theoretical part, literature survey, research methodology, experimental setup, results on their analysis, until you get the end there to the references of your project. Now, the body of the project supposed to deliver the main topic, deliver your argument, deliver the fact, cover more grounds, tell stories. And by the way, in the presentation also, my advice, you will, within 1 year, you will get many stories. Okay, while you work in the lab, or if it is outdoor, let me say experiment, you will get many stories. Sometime as example, I give a story here. My students working on dust and the effect of dust on solar panels, and they leave the dust accumulated on the panel, and one day rain came and cleaned everything, and the accumulated already moved. So this is a story they can't tell people when they sit there. Okay, this is what happened with us. But and they some let me say things which is not what we prefer to happen. As example, rain is not good for us because we want the accumulation for a long time, but it happened. Distortion could happen anytime. Consider it. Take it as advantage. Be optimistic. Don't be pessimistic. Okay, consider it in your work. Tell people about it. Even wrong experiment is helpful and is achievement. So try to mention it. Don't worry. This is what happened. And at the end, conclusion. You are landing in conclusion. Even if it is short chapter, as I mentioned, conclusion and the future work could contained within 1 or 2 pages. But these pages supposed to contain, let me say, very careful written statements. Don't make it as introduction. Sometimes people, they wrote in the conclusion like an introduction. No, you try to focus more on the conclusion extracted from your work based on your experimental results and observations. So summarize the topic at the beginning, introduce in one, let me say, line, then summarize the problem, and then you put the concluded remarks. Make your concluded remarks as a point, my advice. Okay, don't put them as a text paragraph. It's not a scientific paper, it's thesis, so you need to know this number. If you write them, it's good if you put some key findings, numbers as example, and land carefully, as I mentioned. Resources is important. Okay, it's not let me say think you sometimes miss it. No, you need to cite other people's work. This is a credit for you. Okay, and definitely, I think at this stage, you know how to cite I expect how you cite the references you taken from. Okay, there are different style for citation, and there are different software used to use them for citation, such as Mendeley and other softwares. You can write the references in different style, APA, or let me say Harvard or Chicago or IEEE or any other, let me say, standard. So anything taken from references, after you rewrite it in your way, try to cite it. Okay, you do the paraphrase and then you cite it. Okay, especially figures, tables, equations. You need to write from where you talk these. Readers, when they come to read your thesis later on, they know where to go for extra information because you already listed there your references. And make sure also the references is in the same way. I mean, don't jump from style to style. Use one style for the whole thesis. Okay. And be grateful for and thankful for people attention. I from experience, I can tell you something. I mean, sometimes I read some work, if it is paper or let me say report or thesis, I can find that the writer, when he come to the literature survey, he tried to look only to the, let me say, negative points. As example, he say the author, after he mentioned everything related to the study, and the author failed, okay, to conduct this experiment, or the assumption is very limited, and no, start also writing in a better language. Be thankful for the people for their work done. If there is good achievement, mention for this. It was a great achievement in this project, or good achievement in this study, that they try to conduct this side and that side from the experiment also. So not only negative side, positive side, go also to the positive side. Knowing your topic, your audience, and your venue. Now, here more close to the presentation, but if we go to the project, to the thesis, you know your topic. Try to not, let me say, go outside the objectives. Objectives make a circle for you, okay? Try to play within the circle. Don't go outside. I give example. Sometimes it happened for students in their final year project, in MSc and PhD. Even I tested by myself examining some MSc or PhD students. They work on a topic, and while they are working on a topic, they find another topic close, but they enjoy it. What they did, they try to give important part from their thesis to the second topic, which is related, but it's not the main topic. So don't try to avoid your objectives and go for something else extra. No, focus only on your main objectives. For your audience in the presentation, you need to know who will sit. Okay, I'm sure when your first try to present your work, if 2-3 people sit, you will feel shy maybe. But later on, with experience, it will be easy task for you. Also, if in your presentation, if your professor sitting in front of you, you may feel shy. Okay, but if you present more, you talk more, you engage more, definitely it will be easy. Also, the venue, the place, don't go exactly at the moment when the presentation should be start. No, we go at least 20 minutes, half hour. You make sure that your computer, your tools is ready there. The place is prepared well, the chair, let me say table, and so you make sure that the place is okay, and you can start easily then when the professors came. As I mentioned here, we are talking about the project structure and the presentation at the same time. So it's supposed to contain introduction, methodology, objectives, results, discussion, conclusion, and future work. It's like what I mentioned regarding the structure of the thesis. 5 chapters starting from introduction, chapter 2 theory and literature survey, chapter 3 research methodology and experimental setup, chapter 4 results and their analysis or discussion, chapter 5 conclusions and future work. Okay. Sometime in some project, they may extend or let me say separate some chapters into two different chapters, such as they put result in one chapter, discussion in one chapter, or conclusion in one chapter, future work and stuff. But my advice to stick with the 5. It's more used by people in this level. Avoid too many sentences. Avoid too many sentences, not only in slide when you present your work, but also in the thesis when you present your work. In the thesis, okay, don't, as example, you want to, sometimes my students want to put a brief history, okay, for solar energy. And they wrote that the section is a brief history about solar energy, but what they put is 6-7 pages. This is not a brief. So don't talk much. Yes, it's theoretical part, but don't talk much about something is not useful. They got it, the reader got it from the first statement, from the first paragraph. So why you expend your information? There is meaningless here. So avoid writing. The same thing could be say for the slides. Don't put much information. Even for the slide, there is a rule, say 7 times 7. 7, it means don't put more than 7 lines in the slide. Each slide should not contain more than 7 words. So people, they don't want to read from the slide. They they want to see you talk, perform in front of them. They want to see figures, results, systems, tables, equations. They want to see these issues, not text and read from them. They can't read it in the let me say in your report or the papers or the website. Okay. Use positive words or language such as design, achieved, facilitate, refine, modify. Always try to contain these positive words in your project, thesis, and even presentation. Stick to the time limits. It's not only in the presentation or in your final year project or in your project itself when you write the report. In everything, make time management. Now today we can see that our students sometimes have difficulty in manage their time in exam. Time management is important. You need to be consider this, especially you are in level 4, you're gonna graduate soon. So from now, arrange your time in whatever given to you. If it is a presentation, if it is thesis, a report to be given, task to be finished, check the deadline and schedule your your tasks within the time. Link them. Sorry. Use your available tools, figures, photos, table, quotes, okay? These, use them in writing your thesis, in writing your slides for a presentation. Variety is important here, okay? Don't stick only with either text or photo, okay? Some of our students, what they do, they put everything, which is great, because people, they want this variety. They see some slides contain equations. Some slides contain figures also. Some of them tables. Some of them videos, linked to video. They present it as example. By the way, video doesn't mean you show 10 minutes video. No, I'm talking about 20 seconds, 30 seconds in this way. But something, it's preferable to be your video or one video, not video taken from YouTube. Okay. Some quotes related to the topic you are covering. As they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, but be selective for your picture. And I always advise, usually in level 2, I started with my students, advising them, especially when I go for data presentation and the statistics, how they present their information, how they make their first of all, how they select their figure. Are they look to the quality or quantity or both? How they improve their figures. I mean, you don't just go to Excel, put X and Y and sketch them either pie chart or bar chart or line graph, mix, polyline graph or whatever it is, histogram. No, not only this. Try to look to your figure. As example, here we compare two figures, one of them with colors, one of them with one gray color. You see, the colored one is more beautiful, more shining, more enjoyable than the other one. Okay? Not only colors. I'm talking about here many things, many touches you can use and put them in your graph and make it, let me say, more clear and more easy taken by the observer or the audience or the reader. As I mentioned, copyright. Give credit where credit is due. I mean, copyright, let me say, when you take from some sources, cite them, acknowledge them. If people, at the beginning and at the end of your thesis, try to make acknowledgement for people support you, even technicians, even your family, your colleagues, your professors, and so on. Make sure that you may face some difficulties in the final minute or last minute, okay? Some technical issue. If it is thesis, I mean, and you need to submit the thesis as example or the interim report, let me say, 10th of February to your supervisor. Don't come before the deadline 1 hour to print the report or to send it by email. You may lose the internet. You may find difficult to print it out. The same thing could be said at the final date for the project at the end of the year. Make sure that you be ready in advance, a few days as example, okay? And the remaining time you may check your work before you send it. Do not put sentences or let me say words cannot be explained. I will give example. I remember maybe 2006-07, we was in the old building and we attended, let me say, a final year project presentation. I was examiner. My colleague, the examiner, the second examiner, he started with them. So with the students in front of him, he asked them go to directly with no welcome or something. Directly ask them go to page number 1, line number 1, read it. So the first student start reading something as mentioned in Webster. So he asked this question: who's Webster? They didn't expect this. Okay, one of them say he's a professor. One of them say it's a company. So he just smiled. What happened next is in the next 10-15 minutes he asked him a question. They couldn't answer anything because they stuck there at that moment. Don't put words or statements, people they can't ask you about them and you cannot answer. Start from now using your own word, your simple word. Any word complicated, even if you cannot read it, avoid it. Go for more easy words, okay? Because people are gonna ask you this way. Go to page number 61, second paragraph, read, tell me what this means. So don't write something you cannot explain. This is my advice. Again, it's the thesis or the presentation both contain introduction, problem statement, research questions, scope, limitation. Scopes and limitation is good to be added if you have, okay? This give you more, let me say, credibility because you are honest here, telling that this is my limitation, this is my scope, I don't want to go out. Materials, method, results, and their discussion, and Gantt chart, the focus on the milestone in the project. Tips for better presentation of your thesis or your presentation. But mainly in the presentation, rehearse thoroughly and pay attention to body language. I don't think here we need to explain more. I mean, it's clear. Smile. Some people are from the beginning their face read some disappointing, which is not good. No, be smile, be relaxed. Okay, nothing. You did work and you are going to talk about it. Very simple, very easy. Incorporate your personality, your body language, okay? Move in front of your audience in a way that you use your body with your language, with the slides to show them your achievements. Start sometime, don't talk continuously, start sometime, take some breathing or stop some points. Eye contacts, don't turn your face to the other side, far away from the audience or your supervisor or professors. Quality of a project, okay, and your presentation. Here I picked some examples for, as example, this is advisory with industry, okay. Make it simple. I can see that some of our students, what they do in their slide, they put background with many colors, with something may sometimes not related to the project. No, make your slide very simple and your title very clear, similar to this one. and make sure that you put your contents and you will talk about them. Don't put something you will not talk about. This is example of advisory. Another example from project by students maybe 6 years back, okay, 5-6 years back, okay. Their first slide contain everything, contain the title, the year of the project, the name of the student, their supervisor, and the second slide they talk about their outlines, the contents. Even in your pages, as example here in my page, I try to put some introduction about myself, marketing myself, my expertise, okay? Make it simple, clear for people. This is, as example, this is, I put these slides from one of my colleagues in our meeting in 2008. Do you see anything not preferable to be in the slide? Do you see anything? What do you think? Is something here is not right? Are you still with me or you left? Hello?
Yes, doctor.
What do you think? What is something here is not right? Do you think the colors is right?
Yes.
Yeah, red, white, green. It's like wrong makeup, right?
Renewable, right? So
Yeah, so you need to use the color correctly, use the font type correctly, and sometimes in the same page you see, let's see as example, different size for the let me say the style you use, different style, times New Roman, sometimes Arial, different color. The spaces between the lines is different, sometimes single line, sometimes 1.5 double. No, make sure to be uniform and make your let me say writing is systematic, uniform. For the slide, effective utilization of the space, minimal use of the words. So as example, Steve Jobs, he wrote only three words. One more thing, but he attract them with these three words, and he can write and feed them with the intake, what we call it, or conclusion. The slide could contain small words, but it talk a lot. The colors, the size of the font itself. Okay, this is another well-known person. He's Simon, saying, see how many people following him or view this presentation. What, how, why? Just a few words, but he say a lot in his presentation, and people following him. It doesn't mean that you put more information in your slide, that this is the best way to present your information. No, sometimes less words, but more talk. Okay, and the talk supposed to be directly linked to your topic. It will be effective. See his eyes, this guy, his eyes saying a lot to the audience. The tone itself. Sometimes you raise your tone, you lower your tone. Sometimes you continuously talk and then you stop. People, you attract people. Try to attract them. Elon Musk also. Sometimes simplicity. Sometimes he brought let me say prototype and talk about it with his skills, with his body language. Okay, have you think to brought some let me say prototype in your presentation, or only your PPT? Have you think of print your presentation and also distribute it on the examiners as example, or some summary, one-page summary for things distributed? Start to be initiative. Okay, you initiate something. Focus on logo, ethos, and pathos. Actually, here what we are talking about is you have objectives, you want to, you have contribution, you want to let me say sell it or market it, let me say, to people using your scientific character on your, let me say, skills, body language, and other together. They call it logo, ethos, and pathos. Okay. In summary, you need to understand what you want to present, what the presentation contains, talking about the presentation at the end of the semester or the middle, or the project structure and the thesis and how you prepare it. Organize your information. You know, sometimes our students coming directly to prepare the thesis or the presentation. My advice: come with a paper and pen and write your idea, write your thoughts on the paper. First, I would like to do 1, then 2, then 3. Then think before you start execute. This is important. Executing your work, if you prepare your thesis, you're writing your thesis or preparing your presentation, make sure that you follow the university standard. Okay, you follow the guidelines, make it uniform. If anybody come to read your thesis, which is your story, for 1 year, he will see that there is one person here working, or there is a group, the same group working. Don't let them feel that sometime somebody write this and sometime another people wrote this. No, it is the same story. Prepare thoroughly, as I mentioned. References, you see here citing references, even if presentation, even if it is thesis, you read to cite it. If you take from website, you mentioned when you took from these websites. Okay, show the link so people can go there and check. Okay. By the way, my advice for you is for regarding the references, take from well-known sources such as paper in important scientific journals, talk from books published in well publishers, take from the scientific community, especially the scientific, let me say, websites. But mention, as I mentioned, avoid Wikipedia and this, because it's reflecting the owner of the website, I mean, background and ideas. So more focus on papers and from journals and so. These are copyrights from where I took this presentation. Okay, and at the end, thank people. Sometimes we see the presentation without thank at the end. Sometimes we see the thesis without any acknowledgement for people contribute to this project. So please make sure to thank people. Now I completed my presentation. Next, I will listen to your questions if you have any. Any questions? Amal, Hajar?
No, doctor, thank you.
Okay.
So, good evening, Dr. Hussain. It is very nice to hear an extensive presentation covering all the aspects of thesis and the report. So on behalf of the listeners, I would like to clarify something. So what is your advice regarding the length, the time duration of the presentation, Dr. Hussain?
Yeah, this is a good question, Prof. We need to, before we go for any presentation, we need to ask how much time given for us. If it is, let me say, 15 minutes, which is usually what we give to our students in final year, you need to prepare yourself. Try to make a practice at home. Distribute the slides. If there are 4 students group, each one, how many slides will take. Practice on your slides, read your colleagues' slides at the same time, but practice more on your slide. Check the time in front of mirror, as example, make a timer and check how much time. You make a brainstorming with your colleagues to make sure that you will present your work within 13 to 15 minutes. Don't go more behind 15 or less than 10 as example. So time, you need to make sure that what is the time given to you, work within this time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hussain, for all your resourceful and important updates on how to make the presentation impactful. So please feel free, students. It is your requirement for which we have arranged the series of lectures. Please feel free to interact. Even if it is not during this session, you are most welcome to visit any of our colleagues, including myself, Dr. Hussain, and all the teachers. So discuss more, try to learn more, and this is a wonderful opportunity for you to become a better presenter, either in the final year project and in other presentations. Thank you very much, Dr. Hussain.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof. Thank you. Thank you. I see you. If you have any question, please, you can come visit me in my office. I will meet you in the faculty. Thank you very much.
Doctor.
Yes.